Let's just think of a sonic verb running.
A sonic verb.
Blast. I don't
want to picture that.
Yeah, I hope. Yeah, this had a lot of sonic blasting in it.
Well, the sonic blast is a thing.
Yeah.
The Sonic restaurant.
That's true. Running, dashing.
Through the snow.
Yeah.
This is like an optical illusion. Like, you see right here, my cord, it looks like really like tangled, but like...
Oh, yeah, it does.
It looks really weird.
Yeah.
Not that bad in real life.
Look at this and tell me what you imagine Sonic's doing.
Speeding, sprinting, spinning, gallivanting.
Gallivanting?
It just reminds me of that one show, Gallivant.
I never watched
Came
that.
out when we were like in high school.
Thanks so much for sonicking going over here.
I was about to say, thank you for fasting.
Fasting. Thank you for fasting.
Because I was thinking that gotta go fast. Can you imagine if people have been fasting since our last video? Since our last review? Our last video was Deadpool and Wolverine, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Back in July, Jesus.
Thank you so much for speeding on over here to the Awesome Padrone Show. We just saw Sonic the Hedgehog 3. I'm not going to act like I am a major just like Sonic fan into the lore. I did watch the first one. I liked it a lot, but I will say Zach is a really big Sonic fan.
Yeah, I won't even say I'm like a huge one, but Sonic Adventure 2 was like the one Sonic game that I really played quite a bit when I was a kid. I had a friend I used to go over, and he had a GameCube, and I would watch him play, and we would play it together. And then at my orthodontist when I was a kid, because I got braces when I was a kid, so when I was like in 3rd grade, and the orthodontist at his office in the waiting room, he had a GameCube set up, and it had Sonic Adventure 2.
Yeah.
So I used to play it all the time whenever I used to go to the orthodontist, and then when I used to go to my friend's house. Mm. And then this movie is loosely based on Sonic Adventure 2. So this is right up my alley. I loved Shadow, honestly. Yeah. So I was really anticipating him showing up in these movies. You know, it's kind of random, but the guy sitting next to me, his daughter, she's kind of adorable. There's one part whenever Shadow was talking to Maria, and he was like, I don't know what I am. Like, immediately after he said that, she was like, a hedgehog. There's a few times where she said stuff like that.
I think I remember you laughing. I was like, what are you laughing at? Why are you laughing at this scene? And going into this movie, I was definitely a little, I guess, weary, concerned, just because as much as I did like the first one quite a bit, the second one was like a 50-50 mix for me. And I think it was for a lot of people who watched it, where every scene with Sonic or
the actual Sonic characters.
Yeah, the Sonic characters, you know, Robotnik, all the Sonic characters.
Knuckles.
Yeah, Knuckles. All of them was pretty fun. But there was a big portion of it that was dedicated to like the other human characters, like at a wedding in Hawaii or something like that.
It was just a really weird choice. We never did a review over the second one. We saw it in theaters, but I can't remember why we didn't do a review over it. But yeah, it was just a weird decision of how much focus they put on those human characters.
Yeah. And the second one still showed that they knew how to make the movie fun. It's just that a good chunk of it was not. And so going into this, I was like, well, if they try to do that again, it's going to be disappointing, but maybe they learned their lesson. And after watching it, I am happy to say that I actually really liked this movie. I think it was better. Well, I will say to me, it was better than the first one. It's my favorite one of the three.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite too. And just going back to what we were saying about the human characters, it seemed like they finally understood that they just need to put the human characters aside. They're still in the movie, obviously. They can't just completely forget about them, but they are like completely on the back burners in this movie. There is like maybe like a 5-minute like extended sequence where they had to do a little mission towards the end of the movie, but it's just like that one small part. And the rest of the movie was completely focused on the Sonic characters and Robotnik.
And I will say strangely enough, that one little mission part was probably one of my least favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah. It's like it was like the only time of the movie where I was just like sitting there like, all right, this is no longer fun.
I feel like a little kid saying that, but like it's almost like I won't even say it's just because it was humans. It was like the writing changed.
Right, it's just like a cringy kind of humor.
Yeah, like they didn't know how to make it. I guess it was almost like there's humor that they give Sonic and the Sonic characters that works for them, but doesn't work for
Exactly.
Like the more human grounded characters, you know. Not like Robotnik, but the more human grounded characters, it doesn't translate well to them, and so the quality of humor still goes to them, and so it just doesn't work, and it goes kind of cringy.
Right.
And that's the only thing I can kind of piece together, because it was kind of dumb humor. It was maybe tiny, little bit funny parts here and there, but you know, that was probably the worst part of it. But it was a short part.
And since we're on the subject of human characters, I do want to bring up Robotnik and Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
He honestly, as much as I love Shadow, and I was waiting for Shadow to show up in these movies, Jim Carrey as Robotnik has completely carried this entire trilogy, in my opinion. Not like the trilogy has been bad besides him, but like every time he was on screen in this movie, I was just like having like such a blast.
And it's funny because I think after Sonic 2, Jim Carrey was like, I think I'm going to retire from acting.
Right.
You know, he was, he says something like to the extent of, unless something falls in my lap that speaks to me or something like that.
Did he say like if it was like written in gold or something? Or like golden ink or something like that? It's like, dang.
Yeah.
Sonic 3 came up, I guess.
that was the one. But it came out, someone had asked him, and he was like, oh, to be honest, I bought a lot of stuff and I need money. So I guess that golden ink was just like
actual gold.
Actual gold.
But this Sonic movie is honestly the most Jim Carrey has been Jim Carrey in this entire trilogy. It's like they gave him free reign to do whatever he wanted in this one. So I can kind of understand why he would come back.
Yeah, and it's also fun that even if this is his last movie, even though maybe it's not some award-winning movie, some extremely critically acclaimed movie, but it's Jim Carrey the way he started.
Yeah, just classic vintage Jim Carrey in all the best ways.
Yeah, and then, you know, we were talking about Shadow a second ago, and I will say Shadow was great. I think Keanu Reeves was perfect in casting.
Yeah.
And I know you were wanting
Hayden Christensen.
I was going to say Hayden Panettiere.
that would be a little bit of a different direction.
Can you imagine Hayden Panettiere?
But Hayden Christensen, I was about to say Hayden Panettiere.
What's the last thing she was in?
Yeah, no, right? Yeah,
I love you, Beth Cooper. I know she's probably played in something since then.
Yeah,
but
I feel like she was in something like maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, but I can't remember what that was. But yeah, Hayden Christensen. It was being heavily rumored before Keanu Reeves was cast that Hayden Christensen, who played Anakin in the prequel Star Wars movies, was going to be Shadow. But then it was announced that Keanu Reeves, and honestly, I did not expect it. I knew a lot of people were fan casting Keanu Reeves as Shadow, but then when he was finally cast, I like sat down and thought, was like, that's actually kind of perfect.
Yeah.
The more I thought about it.
And then I love Keanu Reeves, but I will say, for the most part, his acting for me is usually not the best. Mm-hmm. But I will say that his acting, the kind of acting he does, you're watching John Wick specifically, was perfect for Shadow. It was very perfect for the very serious role that Shadow is.
Right, yeah, because like Shadow has always been, or at least in the Sonic games I've played, he's like this like overly serious kind of character. Mm-hmm. That's what we love about Shadow. Yeah. And then Keanu Reeves, his acting, to me at least, has been kind of like that same kind of like overly serious, kind of campy, kind of style of acting. Yeah. And just like fit like the whole tone of Shadow, just and the whole character in general. And it's kind of funny, without going into spoiling what his backstory is, I saw this one person comment a couple of weeks ago saying like, Shadow's story is pretty much like John Wick's backstory.
Oh yeah,
like in reverse.
Yeah,
like if the John Wick had been killed and the dog went on rampage.
And then what I really want to get into with this is just how good the writing is, the story writing of this movie is, because. It's crazy watching this movie and seeing the level of story writing and storytelling they have in this, because it's honestly better than a lot than some movies, like some legitimate, like I don't want to say this isn't like a legitimate movie,
right?
Yeah,
no, I know what you mean.
Some bigger, more, I don't know, some bigger movies, you know, I'm about to say adult movies.
Yeah, I can imagine has better writing than adult movies. I would hope so. It'd be kind of sad if it had worse writing.
Yeah. Because one thing I was really happy about, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know this much about Shadow before the movie, before the trailer, stuff like that. But you had kind of told me about Shadow's background, and just in case you don't know what it is, I won't spoil it for you. But it's a very dark background. It's a very sad, tragic story.
Yeah, especially for a kid's game.
yeah, exactly. And I was like, I wonder if they're gonna go all the way with it, because you see stuff in the trailer and things like that. You're like, you never know.
Right.
But watching it, I'm like, they really went for it. They really went for it. And the storytelling of it is just, it's honestly really impactful for the little bit of time they gave it. I will say, if they made this movie a little bit longer, maybe it could be more impactful. But at the end of the day, it is a kid's movie, and you're going to lose kids' interest if you start going really hard into Shadow's background story.
Exactly.
The dramatics of it, So I get why they didn't do that, But the writing for his backstory was really good, and then just in general, just kind of the message that Sonic goes through, the arc that Sonic goes through, and the message that he goes through. And there's a lot of really good lines. And there's one really good line, and I can't remember, it's about stars.
Oh, yeah.
Or something like that.
The star is still there even though the fire is gone or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And it's said earlier in the movie, and then it's brought back later. And I was like, did they really just do that?
Yeah.
Did this kids movie just do that?
Yeah, it was a little more profound than I was expecting.
Yeah. I'm like, did they just bring it back around like that? Like, that's crazy. I was really surprised.
Yeah, like
they had that level of writing.
Yeah, like I didn't start tearing up or anything, but it definitely hit me in the feels more than I was expecting in that moment.
And then they did the same thing with Sonic. They have like a thing that has to do with his heart. Like, it sounds like he has like a heart disease or something.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
But like,
that's what this movie's about.
Yeah, Sonic's dying.
Yeah, Sonic needs heart surgery. Yeah. Can you imagine? Sounds like they stole a storyline from A Train and the Boys. How he has a heart problem and he runs fast.
It's blue,
yeah,
so
exactly, and he runs fast.
Yeah, so yeah. But it was like talking about Sonic's heart, like don't let something change you, and like pointed at his heart or something like that, and it comes back around, and like, this is crazy to have this level of writing.
Yeah, and then how it parallels Shadow's backstory and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they have a lot of parallels, and sure, you have your Pixar movies and things like that do go into the deep story, but this is Sonic the Hedgehog, and there's just something different, and there's just something so surprising about that, especially since the first two didn't really have that level of writing. Yeah. As fun as the first one is, it was kind of more towards just a fun movie. The second one was another great, but this movie was a fun movie and a very well-written movie.
Yeah, and especially in a movie that in the same movie has Jim Carrey being the most Jim Carrey he's been in a long time. It's just crazy how they have both sides of movie telling, like storytelling. I guess to say
this movie had a really good balance of a lot of different things.
And also with Jim Carrey, you have Jim Carrey playing two characters in this.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Robotnik and then Robotnik's grandpa Gerald, and it's kind of crazy. Because, I mean, there's been a lot of movies where an actor plays two different characters. And it usually works. I'm not going to say it never works or anything. But there's something about this movie.
Like Norbit?
yeah, right. It worked perfectly in that movie. But in this movie, it, like, genuinely felt like two different people.
Yeah.
Two different actors. Yeah. And there's, like, not only just like the performance, but how they did things that had them both on screen and how they had them interact in a lot of scenes. Yeah. Like, I don't know how they did it, honestly.
Yeah, there's honestly certain parts of the movie where
they even have like a dance number together.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. That was great.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. And there's honestly certain parts where I just completely forgot that Jim Carrey was playing both of them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, you know that in the beginning when they come, you're like, that's obviously Jim Carrey. But as the movie goes on, they just completely become two separate characters completely. So I thought that was pretty great. Now, we were talking earlier about how much we love Shadow, But I will say, in regards to Shadow, it's probably one of my bigger negatives in the movie, is that I feel like they could have done a little more with him. Now, he's in the movie a good little amount, but I thought number one, he should be in the movie a little bit more, and number two, he should have more lines.
Yeah.
And honestly, more, not really comedic lines, but like, he says maybe one comedic line in the movie, and it's not like he says a joke. It's just the humor is he says
kind of the straight man kind of humor.
Yeah, the humor is he says something really seriously.
Yeah,
and it's really funny because of how seriously he says it.
Right, exactly.
I feel like they could have done that a few times, and I feel like he could have been in the movie a little more.
Yeah, especially because like they had his motivation down pretty great, but then they didn't have him like showing him taking actions to like support that.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
No,
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that he did in this movie, but they could have shown him doing more stuff, like have more scenes of him doing stuff.
Yeah,
to make that motivation even more impactful.
Yeah, and then another thing is the pacing. I feel like, and this is more specifically the beginning, maybe the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes, do you think?
Yeah.
Of the movie?
Yeah. It is a good chunk, at the beginning.
Yeah. The pacing was off a good amount. And I will say it started off, the pacing started off pretty rocky, and then it kind of gets slowly better. And then by probably, I don't know, I'm just kind of saying numbers right now, but I'll just say 30 minutes just for fun.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that time, the pacing does become a lot better because the story feels like it's running a lot more smoothly.
Yeah.
Whereas the beginning, it was almost like they needed to get to that mark as quick as possible.
Yeah, it's like, geez, I know it's a kids movie and they want to keep the kids' attention, but it's moving like super fast in the beginning. Yeah. Which, I mean, it wasn't like the worst I've ever seen a pace in a movie, but it was pretty fast.
Yeah.
How fast things were moving. A lot of like little conveniences to move the story forward. And it's kind of crazy that this trilogy started off with the whole fiasco of them releasing the trailer and Sonic looking like this.
Oh yeah.
I genuinely feel like if he continued to look like this when they released the first movie, that we would have not gotten to the third movie.
Yeah, I know. I'm so happy that they decided to change it because the trilogy has been pretty good. I mean, especially this third one. I mean, this third one, I'm sure, I almost want to say it's as good as it could be. I'm sure they could have done something better. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's like, it was really good. Yeah,
it was honestly everything I was hoping it would be. Just fun, silly, campy kind of movie, but still have a lot of heart in it.
Yeah.
Especially when it came to Shadow's backstory.
Yeah.
And it genuinely was funny in so many parts of this movie.
Yeah.
Not just like funny just for a kid's movie. It genuinely made me laugh at several parts of the movie.
Yeah.
But and I know there's like a conspiracy that they did that on purpose, made it look really ugly, just so that they could change it and like win people's approval or whatever. But I honestly don't really think so.
I think it'd be strange because Sonic's a really popular character, so it's not like they wouldn't have made their money off of it.
Exactly.
You know, like people would have watched it, and you know.
Right, yeah, and I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of like, well, I mean, they obviously made merchandise because I bought this around the time the first movie came out. But yeah, I'm just glad they did it.
Yeah, me too.
They definitely seem to be genuine fans of the games. All the people who make these movies.
We are gonna say that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is 85% awesome. All right, you ready to finish this out?
Yep. That's what she said.
Well, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, comment and let us know what you thought about Sonic 3. Also, if you want to, go ahead and rank them down below.
And don't forget to follow us on social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it. All at The Awesome Padron Show.
Mm-hmm. And OnlyFans.
So, yeah. Definitely sign up for that.
Yeah. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and you will see us later.